Good evening and welcome to Special Assignment. I'm Ashraf Garda. The last few years have seen several African governments cracking down on gay people. South African law allows for foreign gays and lesbians to apply for asylum if they are persecuted in their home countries. This is consistent with South Africa's liberal and tolerant constitution. But as producer Kobus van Staden points out, the reality doesn't quite match up to our constitution.
When South Africa became a democracy, the gay community was also freed. South Africa became the only country in Africa to protect gays and lesbians. In 32 African countries, you can be sent to jail or a labor camp for gay sex. In at least 3, you can be executed. So gays and lesbians from the rest of Africa started coming here to escape persecution. But once they arrive, problems with home affairs leave them trapped between heaven and hell. Junior Mayema was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo. When his family found out he was gay, they dragged him to church. The pastor told Junior's family that he was gay because he was possessed by the spirit of a mermaid.
So they say, yes, I have that spirit in me. That's why I'm behaving like a woman. That's why I'm acting like a woman. That's why sometimes I'm attracting some men to come to me. So they have to pray for me in order to drive out that spirit out of me. So the ritual was like to fast without eating and to pray for me the whole night, sometimes the whole days, not shower because that spirit like the water. Because when I'm showering, the spirit can still be in me. So I have not to shower, not to eat, just be like that. And it was like I was dying, I was not eating anything, and I was asking for my mom to bring me even some food to eat. And then they say, no, if you give him food, it's not good for him. So at the end of the day, I start like, when they were praying for me, then I start like lying, I'm now coming out of the body, and then I was now lying to them. Then they say, yes, in the name of Jesus, you have to come out of this body. And, it was like that.
But life with his mother only got worse after he got home.
She was saying, no, if my son is gay, I'm going to kill him. Even if I don't kill him with food, I will kill him with something else. I will poison his food or I'll do something because I don't want to get that disgrace. I was very sick one day and I was sleeping in my room. So my mother told me, no, I'm going to get a nurse to come and help you. So she just went out. And I was still sleeping, and then the nurse came in with my mother with some medication and the syringe for injection. So I was still sleeping, and the syringe was with, like medication inside. So they just went out again, and after they went out, something was telling me, no, you have to check this. You have to check that syringe. So I tried to check it to see what was inside, and I tried to smell. It was actually petrol, like gasoline.
Junior fled the house that day. He made his way to South Africa. He ended up staying in Cape Town with his cousin. He started going out to gay clubs in the city, but one night his cousin followed him with a camera.
When I came back home, he just showed me the picture. I didn't know that you go to this club. Now I know that you're gay. You have to leave my house this night.
So Junior found himself homeless in a strange city. He still bounces between shelters and staying with friends. His only outlet is Facebook, where he looks for support from international activists. Meanwhile, his hope of finding safety from hatred in South Africa was dashed by home affairs.
They gave me a form to fill in, and I explained. They asked me, why are you in South Africa and all this. I wrote, no, I just came because I fled persecution in my country and all this. I'm gay and I want to stay here because there's a liberal constitution here for gay. Maybe I can stay here for a while or maybe permanent. So I gave it back to them, but when I went now to get my asylum permit, the guys working there looking at me with disgust. He was like, oh, how come he just came from his country and he's gay? You know, it was like very disgraceful. And he just for me the asylum permit, temporary permit. He for it to me, and then I took it. And I went, it was for 6 months, and every time when I go there to get a extension, they are not very welcome to me.
The people at Home Affairs told Junior it could take up to 3 years to decide his immigration status, so he's trapped. With no job and no permanent residency, he has nowhere to turn. Many in his position depend on sex work to survive. One Ugandan refugee told us that he was trying to survive through finding men in clubs who would pay him for sex. He said these men had twice drugged his drinks, and he think he might have been sexually assaulted while unconscious. However, he refused to do an interview with us for fear that fellow Ugandans would recognize his voice and kill him.
Congolese friends that I know, they are not working because they tried to work, but they were facing homophobia in the workplace, the job market. So they are living with sex work. They are going out in club doing prostitution, you know. And like nowadays, it's also very hard to find a man in a club, you know. Most of the guys are going there. If they don't find someone, they're stealing from people. I'm staying with them. Sometimes you can see them coming with phones, coming with things like that they steal from some other people, and I don't think it's a good life.
Junior now has to decide between life in limbo in South Africa and going back home to Congo.
At the moment, I don't have any money to sustain myself. I don't have anything, you know. And if I can go back to my family now, it will be the end of everything.
What do you mean?
They will kill me. Because they cannot accommodate me the way I am. My mother is crying every day. She's cursing me every day. She's, you know, all of her friends are insulting her for me to being gay, you know. It's every day in Congo there's a topic about me, what I'm doing in South Africa, how shameful, I'm disgraceful, I'm bringing shame to my family and all this, you know. It's very bad. And the day I will say, no, I'm going to Congo, you know, it will be the end.
Coming up next, the horrific story of a man who almost got both his arms hacked off because he's gay.
Few countries in Africa are more hostile towards gays and lesbians than Uganda. Recently, the Ugandan government tried to push through a law that would condemn gay people to death and imprison anyone who hid them. We met Roy Senyonko at PASOP, an NGO helping gay refugees. Roy used to live in Uganda, then the anti-gay campaign started.
By then, that period, it was really very, very, very tough on the LGBTI community. It was really very tough. Even if you were walking, and people, you know, people, there's a way they try to mention people, those are gays. In our language, they call abali babisiyaga twagala tukatti. Those kind of things, they try to intimidate you, and there are those people trying to intimidate people, and they come and they not even intimidating, but some of them they turn up and they try to beat those people thoroughly.
First, Roy lost his job because he was gay. Then came the ultimate betrayal.
I got a boyfriend. The boyfriend was straight, but he pretended to be like a gay, a bi. So in Uganda, they know that these people, they have money, a lot of money. They gay, they have a lot of money. So you can try to use the gay. If you get someone who is a gay, you can try to use that person or try to blackmail him.
Knowing that as a gay man, Roy couldn't go to the police, the blackmailers broke into his house.
They can come with the pangas and the guns, and the drills. So just in case when they find the door when it's closed, they just put that drill in the door, then they remove that lock and they enter. So by trying to help me to survive, because they first beat me, after beating me, then they said that if you want to leave you, at least try to make a plan for us for the money. How much are you going to give us? I told them at first, I don't have money. Let me tell you, I don't have money. Then they said, no way, unless we are going to kill you.
When Roy resisted, they tried to sever both his arms. He ended up paying them his life savings. It was panga?
Yeah, they were panga. They were trying to cut off my both arms so that I can get I can give them what they want.
Knowing that no one would help him, he decided to flee to South Africa. Here he was safer as a gay man, but he became swept up in South Africa's refugee crisis. Kajal Ramjathan Keo deals with refugee issues for Lawyers for Human Rights.
Home Affairs has been trying to sort out the backlog for a number of years, and there's just the numbers keep increasing. South Africa has been receiving the largest number of asylum seekers of any country in the world for the last 3 years. This hasn't actually helped the backlog process. So until there's some kind of system to try and deal with applications as they arrive, the backlog is not going to be dealt with.
According to our law, gay people are entitled to asylum in South Africa.
Anybody who is escaping persecution in their country based on one of several grounds, and this is political reasons, race, tribe, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, they may lodge an application for protection as a refugee. And this applies equally to somebody who's being persecuted for the reason of their sexual orientation or their gender identity.
Like thousands of other people applying for asylum, Roy is caught in limbo. While he's waiting for Home Affairs to finalize his claim, he can't get an ID and he can't get a job.
When I came here in South Africa, I thought that everything was gonna be okay. Everything will be nice on my side. But what makes me pissed off when I started applying for the job, where every place where I went, I was getting negative reason, negative.
So he's stuck between South Africa and Uganda, unable to live in either.
I left Uganda because South Africa is within Africa. But I'm fed up even staying here in South Africa. I just feel like leave South Africa. At least if I get someone who can try to take me to any European country. So long as I'm working, I go there and I work. I can do any kind of job.
In a moment, a humiliating experience at Home Affairs.
Tatenda Ngwaru grew up in a small township in Zimbabwe. Raised as a boy, she always knew she's actually a girl. She started thinking of herself as transgender, a girl trapped in a boy's body. But this made life very difficult for her.
Some would just pass comments when you're walking. Some would go to my parents and speak to them and say, I'm an abomination, I'm not supposed to be like that. It's illegal being who I am, and some would react to me in violent ways.
Really?
Yeah.
So did you suffer violence?
Yes.
This was during Robert Mugabe's crackdown on the gay community. Tatenda became the victim of a community who didn't have the vocabulary or the sympathy to distinguish between gay and transgender people.
According to the community and my family, I was a gay man. And they treated me as a gay person, which I was not. So the impact was huge and painful because, first of all, I'm being treated for who I'm not. And secondly, they're expecting me to be who I'm not. If someone hates you for being me, I cannot go and report it to the police because the law does not allow gay people, or whatever they want to call them, So they had that strength to say whatever they want to say to me or to my parents. They had that strength to hit me in the road if they want to. They had the strength to manhandle me if they want to, because they know you cannot go anywhere with it.
Tatenda was feeling suicidal. Then she read a magazine article about a South African NGO for transgender people. But after she arrived, she got a huge surprise.
When I came here, I had some sort of knowledge about transgender people. And then this is what I identified as, according to what I was reading and according to what I was seeing. And then when I came to South Africa, at some point, I was feeling sick, and then I went to the hospital, and they did tests, and then they found out that I was, they took pregnancy tests, and they were positive. And which was odd, because if I'm transgender, then I cannot be pregnant, and I didn't think I had ovaries and stuff like that inside. So that was then that I realized that I'm actually intersex, because if you cannot get pregnant if you do not have ovaries, which means I had female organs inside.
The problem was Tatenda also became part of the thousands of people applying for asylum. Experts say most of the people applying for asylum are actually here to find work.
Part of the problem is that there is no mechanism for unskilled migrants to come into the country, so they're all turning to the asylum system. And that's overwhelming the system, and there's just no way that the system can function properly. And again, it is this idea that the system has been now used for migration control. So it's not at all geared towards identifying people who are in need of protection and offering them that protection, which is what the refugee system is all about.
The Department of Home Affairs say they are trying to get these job seekers out of the refugee system.
We are looking at the issue in terms of the of economic migrants. There is a process in place that's looking at that issue of economic migrants. Recently, we had the Zimbabwe Documentation Project, which allowed Zimbabweans who were here to apply for a work, study, or business permit if they'd been here prior to May 2010. So it allowed them to apply for a work permit. And what it did is it took a lot of them who had applications in the refugee system out of that system in order to actually get a permit, which is what they actually wanted. It wasn't because they were here for political reasons or because of persecution. It was to work.
With so many people trying to move through the overcrowded refugee system, corruption is rife. Home Affairs officials prevented us from showing the queuing refugees.
That is not allowed.
But hidden camera footage shows asylum seekers paying bribes to jump the queue. Tatenda experienced this too.
We were there by 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we waited until 8 when they opened the offices. And during that time, between 3 and 8, you have to bribe the muscle men there to get you like in the first position or second or third, just to be close to the gate so that you can be one of the first people who are attended to.
Criminals also prey on these vulnerable people.
They robbed you when you're coming in. Sure. Or they're beating you.
There's a lot of violence. People were throwing bottles at each other, and it was really hectic. And then when you get to 8 o'clock, they open the offices. They take like 10 people in front of you and they tell you, you have to come back tomorrow. This is after waiting for more than 7 hours in the rain.
And when Tatenda finally made her way inside, she realized that hatred and ignorance didn't end at the border.
And when I got inside, it was time for me to be interviewed. And I felt like the man who was doing the interviews also was kind of hostile in a way. He was asking me very uncomfortable questions, and it was
like, what kind of things would he ask you?
Like, what are you? Which I find very offensive. They would call each other and say, come and look, I'm an adult. I can tell when someone is calling that person to say, come and have a look here, what we have here. And they would speak in their language, which they did not realize at that time I had already familiarized myself with Xhosa. So I could hear what and it made me feel so uncomfortable, but I could not leave. In fact, at one point I stormed out and I had to come back the next week because I could not just handle the comments.
That's abuse of an applicant. An asylum applicant has rights, and if they are being subjected to ridicule, embarrassment or bullying, that's not tolerated by the department. In fact, no customer should experience that. We've had situations where South African national has had problems coming for an identity document, and the department views that sort of thing very seriously. There, I would encourage people to raise it, to complain, raise the issue. There are numbers of all senior managers in these offices.
In the end, both the good and bad parts of living in South Africa brought Tatenda to a decision.
I realized I was struggling in my own country, and here I am still struggling. So if I'm going to struggle, I would rather do it in my country.
So Tatenda packed her bags and did what many refugees coming to South Africa end up wishing for. She left. She's now running Zimbabwe's first organization for intersex and transgender people. We asked her what advice she could give to gay and lesbian Africans who plan to come to South Africa.
Don't expect milk and honey, but you will get there. There is nice community in South Africa that is very accepting to LGBTI community, but don't expect things to just happen quickly. It will take time, but if you're patient enough, you will get there.
So is South Africa really a safe haven for gay people? You can give us your views on this issue on Facebook, Twitter, as well as email. And I'll be continuing this discussion on my radio show, so make a note, that's SAFM's Afternoon Talk, Friday at 2 p.m. Well, now to comments from our previous show on PAGAD. Deirdre Becker wrote, even though PAGAD probably has good intentions, we can't leave it up to community groups to take the law into their own hands. And Ahmad Abrams Slamdeen asks, why aren't these top cops tried in a court of law for fabricating evidence? Great news as well, you can catch the repeat of the show and previous ones on the SABC News website. That's sabc.co.za/news. Well, that's it for tonight. Join us next week for another edition of Special Assignment when we point out the issues that matter.